African Americans built this nation. You built this nation. You know, you're just starting to get real credit for that, okay? I don't know if you know that. You're just starting to get, you built the nation. We all built it, but you were such a massive part of it. Bigger than you were given credit for. Does that make sense? Right?
Out our forever First Lady's words, the White House Historical Association spells it out pretty plainly. Planners turned to African Americans, both enslaved and free, to provide the bulk of the labor that built the White House, the United States Capitol, and other early government buildings. This country's financial center, we built that too. Wall Street earned its name because enslaved Africans built a wall to protect Dutch settlers from raids in 1653. This wall ran from river to river. Slaves built the roads, the docks, and most of the big-time buildings in the area that would soon become New York City. And railroads, slaves did that. North America's 4 major rail networks all own lines that were built and operated with slave labor. Before the Civil War, nearly every rail line east of the Mississippi River and south of the Mason-Dixon line was constructed or run at least partly by slaves. You know what else we built? What about that great American music genre? Yes, rock and roll. We built that too. And blues, and jazz, and hip hop, and pop. America's favorite snack food, that was a black guy behind the potato chip. The ironing board, a sister. The traffic light, yep, he was black. The super soaker, that was a dude named Lonnie. He's black too. And the person who invented the technology responsible for the caller ID and call waiting, her name is Dr. Shirley Jackson. And yes, she's black. Clearly, there isn't enough time to go through all the ways black people have built this country. They're vast. Don't get it twisted. Native American and many immigrant communities have made tremendous contributions to the infrastructure, identity, and imagination of the U.S. as well. So when we say we built this country, we actually mean it.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama famously said in her 2016 DNC speech that, quote, "I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves." She was absolutely correct. If you look on a timeline, the history of the United States is still fairly brief, and slavery was abolished a mere 155 years ago. It wasn't just the White House that was built using slave labor, by the way. The building that serves as our country's political center, the United States Capitol, was built and rebuilt using slave labor after its sacking in the War of 1812. Although most northern states had abolished slavery by 1804, it's had its fair share of symbols erected using slave labor. If you're familiar with the Trinity Church in New York's financial district, you may not know that the clergy rented enslaved people to build its iconic spires, as well as the wall that used to snake down what we now know as Wall Street. Many of our forefathers were enslavers. Thomas Jefferson's entire property in Charlottesville, Virginia, Monticello, was built and run by enslaved people. Enslaved people also helped build our intellectual centers. Georgetown University, one of the country's oldest colleges, built most of its campuses after the sale of 272 enslaved people in the 1830s. Many schools with storied histories were built in part by enslaved people, including Harvard University's Law School and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. That school's campus was maintained by slave labor until its abolishment in 1865. Poor record-keeping and indifference by early historians makes it nearly impossible to know every contribution made to these buildings, but there's no doubt about how they got built.